Simple. These are all again discussed many times. Post NPM model, right? Post NPM models are obviously focused on overcoming the limitations of the NPM. NPM was dominated by market values, lacks democratic principles, lacks democratic value system. It did not focus on what you can say citizens. It focused on clients or consumers. Again, it tried to bring dichotomy from certain perspective. Fine. It was more concerned about management and not administration. More concerned about internal reforms and not about the consequences in the society. It believed that internal reforms and changes would improve the consequences for the society. It did not talk about inclusive development, right? It talked about service delivery, effectiveness, right? Being more client-oriented, right? But you can imagine that people in this country or developing countries, they do not, or they're not visible in this classification. They are poor, they are backward, they are minorities, they are, subaltern, they are extreme backwards, and likewise. So you have to deal with those aspects also. This kind of classification in NPM is not visible. For it is a client, it's a client. It's a homogeneous category, though in reality it's a heterogeneous category. Fine. NPM also is again Western bound or Western centric. Osborne and Gabler's model, reinventing government model, right? It was born out of the failure of the government in the Western countries, especially USA, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and many other countries. So failure of the state-centered model or the government in these countries led to the emergence of something called market-based or economic reforms within the administrative system, making them more efficient, more competition, more internal changes, more technology, more technical aspects, budgeting, accounting, financial monitoring, and so many other things, right? Yes. But it was mostly coming from the context of the Western world. So to overcome this, various post-NPM models emerged, right? Whether NPS, new public service, new public governance, responsible neoliberal governance, new Weberian state, then your public value approach, and likewise. So there are various models which have emerged, right? Ethical leadership models, gender perspectives, and many other ideas have emerged. Fine. So that NPG is basically a consequence of that. So new public governance talks about how when the networks will be created, network between government and other actors, right? NGO, media, civil society, market, and all this. So when this networks will be created, right? How the government would be able to associate with these networks. How this relationship between the government and the other actors would be developed. For example, today we talk about whole of government approach, WGA, right? But basically it is more about the government system. But whenever we talk about the multi-actor system, governance paradigm, we have to realize that there is a government and there are a lot of actors around it. Is this relationship between the government and the other actors, right? Is it created in an equitable manner? Is it created in a just and fair manner? Is it understood in a theoretical aspect where the government's role will change as per the needs of the various other actors, right? So how this network will emerge, what will be the consequences that will be created, what problems will be encountered, and how government is going to align itself to these changing aspects. That is called NPG. So what issues will emerge, right? And what kind of approaches will or government will take so that this adjustment can be made. For example, public-private partnerships. So what are we doing? We are creating special purpose vehicles, or for that matter, corporate social responsibility, making a law related to that, right? Or developing regulatory mechanisms. So government's response, how to improve the community's interest, public interest, maximize accountability, and involve these various actors in a more, what you can say, equitable and trustworthy manner. Otherwise, most of these actors will lose trust on the government. Fine. So how it is going to minimize the negatives of this model and how it can improve the productivity or the constructive impact of this model? That is the NPG model. Obviously, NPG cannot be understood without keeping in frame the new public management, right? Or your whole of government approach or any other models that have emerged. So whether it is post NPM or post bureaucratic models, most of them have focused on how to make the administration more citizen centric, more democratic, more human centered, and somewhere more inclusive in orientation, right? That is the idea of NPG. Details are there, you can write it, fine.